Once upon a time, one day was then in the past before I was even born. Then you watch a movie which at first is good, but the ending was sad. The story has plot holes and it's full of depression and it seems kind of uninteresting at some point. And you felt very, but even though it's good, you felt very sad for the ending. The hero died at the end. That's sad. And suddenly, about 50 to 60 years later, you see a cartoon remake. Then suddenly, all the plot holes are fixed and a clearer storyline, more interesting plots, and even the hero survived. And what's interesting is that it sounds more kiddie. Well, that, sir, is Disneyfication. Disneyfication is a term used to remake a more older show. I mean, like a more mature and less kid friendly stuff into a much more kid stuff, like for example, a darker show is made lighter, is Disneyfied is Disneyfied to a lighter show. For example, a violent show when is Disneyfied by another franchise to become much lighter. That's Disneyfication. Basically putting something dark and gloomy, then change the entire thing and make it a lot more lighter for the kids to watch. Yeah. Well, believe it or not, you might say that the one who make it is Disney, but believe it or not, that's the first one to do it is actually the Brothers Grimm. But later on it becomes something, but later they got a name for Grimmification, which makes something lighter, darker. Disney gets the credit for making making darker, lighter. You know? Okay, let's continue. So, Disneyfication is a term used for making a completely darker and less and more confusing show to a much more lighter and less confusing show. That's an example. Disney often does it, because Disney's a children TV program, and once they actually try to make a film, they usually take from older shows and inspiration. But the problem is, they cannot just put off the more bad parts. But you need to at least, well, the bad parts is included, but not too extensive. Just enough for the kids to at least agree with this. So, is Disneyfication bad? Not actually. In fact, it can be a good thing, or even it can be better than the original story. Because how to make it good is not to make Disneyfication good is, well, it's not the characters must not be too cute. They must not be too cute or too dumbed down, and the story at least get some original context. That's what I meant. Also, another thing is, this is an example for Disneyfication. Okay, what? Take Hellsing for example. The anime Hellsing. If Disney ever tried to adapt that show, they'll change a few things. For example, sorry for that. Okay, where am I? Oh yeah. For example, take Hellsing for example. Hellsing is a violent and dark anime show, and we all know that. First of all, how to make Hellsing Disneyfied is that they must at least put down the terms and make it a much child-friendly show. Another thing is that they need to at least remove two offensive views. Okay, first of all, the title Hellsing will be renamed to either to either the catcher, dark catcher, or something like, or spirit hunter, like that. And second of all, the character's personality must be changed. Hell's Alucard, well, from being an aggressive, cruel person who takes who of, for being arrogant and cocky, but with a little moment of humanity. The only personality he retains is that his care for humanity. Other than that, his personality must be drastically changed. Like from being cruel and aggressive at some point, also sadistic. He's much more serious business guy. Well, and from being arrogant to being a complete logic taker to put his own strengths to extremes, like pointing out the obvious. Well, it's kind of arrogant, but at least in a logical way. That's how. What would Alucard be if he was Disney? He would be more serious. He would be serious. He's serious about his battles than being cruel. He would be more. He would actually put up his, instead of being arrogant. He's a more of a guy who points out the obvious, to saying that he's indestructible, and he would just say it like if it's his own thing rather than, you know. But this is the most important thing. His abilities as well. Well, most of his abilities are kinda acceptable. But first of all, his ability to actually manipulate shadows, well, the shadow have to come from having too many eyes to have little eyes. And second of all, the shadows, I mean the familiar summoning, you know, the familiar, sometimes Alucard can summon a familiar, have to be much less scarier. Well, but on the in-depth, while less scarier, they're far more stronger as a change. You know, yeah, Alucard would be much more. Well, this is what would Alucard look like in Disney. He'll be more serious and put up his strengths to a and would often put logical. Well, at least some sort of. He say that his strengths are something you should not mess with, like being a warning sign guy. Well, and also, but other than that, any qualities that shows him being a good person, like his care of humanity, he completely cares about it. Also, instead of blood, they would have to replace it with something else, like fluid of life, you know? Yeah, that's what would Helsing look like if Disney got it. Of course, it kind of looks stupid. You need to note that Disney's a child show, and they don't want to make Disney shows full of blood, which is strange, because while it's violent at some point, the violence is at least PG rate, is at least good enough not to be PG at some point. Yeah. Disneyfication is, well, in conclusion, Disneyfication is, it's not bad as long as you at least try not to put too much cute things in it. Yeah. This is Kenny Darman from Indonesia saying goodbye.